Leslye Headland is changing the narrative. She is fully on board the Access Media's claims that her show, The Acolyte, is getting review bombed. Hilariously, this comes after she indicated she was sad that her show is getting dismantled. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And if you recall, Headland informed the Hollywood Reporter in a piece published on June 20th that she was sad that her greatest, most important piece of art was being dismantled. She said this: "It makes me feel sad that a bunch of people on the internet would somehow dismantle what I consider to be the most important piece of art that I've ever made." Well, she's completely changed her tune now. She did an interview with Collider discussing the show's 6th episode, and she is claiming that the negative reviews that were dismantling her most important piece of art that she's ever made are review bombing. This is what she said to Collider. "Oh, yes, everybody knows what review bombing is like. Truly, when the show first came out, my publicist was like, okay, with the review, I was like, does anybody take that seriously anymore? Perhaps the average, I understand the point of it, which is that the average viewer would look at the site and say, oh, the user review is really low. But I think that if you're in the Star Wars fandom, I think you already know what review bombing is. So I guess if you're totally new to the fandom and you're considering watching the show, it could affect you." What is review bombing, Leslye Headland? Is it the fact that people hated The Last Jedi, expressed that dislike for that show, and then Solo lost a bunch of money because The Last Jedi was absolutely garbage? It was the first Star Wars film to ever lose money. Is that what review bombing is? People actually expressing negative opinions about a show and then punishing the show or the movie for it in the future? Is constant decline in viewership after people express their negative opinions, is that review bombing? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, Leslye Headland. Does not make a lot of sense. Probably because you're a liar and you're lying. Nevertheless, she goes on and says, "But I also think that my work in the past has been very word of mouth anyway." We're going to look into this. The word of mouth is so great on this one. The minutes watched continues to decline, goes down, down, and down. So I don't know if I think that because behind the scenes, we all know what it is. It's not that it's not concerning, but I think it's pretty expected, I would say, she concluded. So the show currently has a 14% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 1.3 out of 5. That is the worst reviewed Star Wars piece of media ever. Movies, television shows, etc. And then 3.5 out of 10 on IMDb. The unweighted mean for the show is actually a 3.1. And the majority of all reviews, 56.2%, are a 1 out of 10. People are not liking this show. And not only are they not liking it, they're actually tuning out of it as well. The latest data that we have from Illuminate, published by Variety, shows that the 5th episode, or the week the 5th episode debuted, only brought in 232.2 million minutes watched. This is the worst week, aside from the show's first week, which only brought in 210 million minutes. The show peaked in its second week with 380.5 million. I think that second week peaked because people wanted to see the train wreck. They wanted to see how bad it was. There was a lot of kind of discussion online that they were going to turn the Force female. They were going to basically ruin a lot of Star Wars canon. And they did. They created a thread replacement. They introduced lesbian space witches that created Force twins. They did all kinds of just absolutely ridiculous, stupid things in Star Wars. And after that episode, it had a significant decline to 262 million minutes watched in its third week. And then viewership data for its 5th week, when the show's 6th episode debuted, has not been made public yet. Obviously, we talked about the 4th week there, 232.2 million. Like I said, the worst that it's been since its premiere, where they aired 2 episodes. And so I also think that second week with 380.5 probably had a lot of people watching for the first time as well. So word of mouth not really working as the show continues to lose minutes watched. And then even if you want to like do a straight up like, oh, it's because the runtime of one episode is longer than the other. Well, that is absolutely not the case when you look at the fourth and fifth episodes. They have almost identical runtimes, and you saw a 30 million decline in minutes watched. 30 million minute decline in minutes watched. So people were definitely tuning out of the show there. And then even if you want to look at this compared to Ahsoka, which also I think had very poor viewership compared to previous Star Wars shows, such as The Mandalorian. Remember, it has very similar minutes watched compared to Andor. And we know that Andor, the Andor showrunner, admitted that the show was chasing its audience. It didn't have the built-in audience that he was actually expecting because it was Star Wars. And if you look at Ahsoka's 2-episode premiere, it did 829 million minutes compared to the Acolyte's 210 million. That is atrocious, massive gap there. And then in the second week, Ahsoka declined to 487 million minutes, while the Acolyte obviously increased, but you still see Ahsoka still had over 100 million more minutes compared to the Acolyte. Ahsoka's fourth episode hauled in 459 million minutes compared to the 262 million of the Acolyte. And then the fifth episode of Ahsoka actually went up to 577 million minutes. And then obviously the Acolyte went down to 232.2 million. And that difference is nearly 60%, 59.7% decline there between the fifth episode of Ahsoka and the fifth episode of The Acolyte. Even if you want to look at the factor in kind of the show's runtimes, The Acolyte is still performing worse than Ahsoka. The fifth episode had a runtime of 34 minutes and 5 seconds, while Ahsoka's fifth episode had a runtime of 51 minutes and 44 seconds. If you do a simple total runtime divided by the episode's runtime, which is how Disney calculates a view, you see here Ahsoka has around 11.3 million views, while the Acolyte has 6.8 million. That's still it's not as big of a decline. It's not that close to 60%, but it's still nearly a 40% decline. So I think it's very clear based on the data available. The negative reviews are not review bombing, as Leslye Headland claims, but are indeed legitimate negative reviews. Not only do they appear to be legitimate negative reviews, but viewers are not tuning in to any more episodes, indicating their dislike of the show. We're seeing a decline in minutes watched as we're going on. I predict that the sixth episode will be even lower than that 232.2 million, and it's going to go down even further. I think the only time where you might see it bump back up again is in the season finale, where you will potentially see people binge watching the entire thing. Because if you have to remember, Nielsen, Illuminate, they don't track just that episode. They track all of the show the week that it airs. So it could be tracking episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that's just in the week that season finale airs, that 8th episode airs, but you're getting all of this watch time from all 8 episodes. And people are likely to do that because they're going to likely do the binge model. They pay whatever for the one monthly fee for Disney Plus, binge watch the show in a day, and then they cancel their Disney Plus subscription and move on. So they're basically just paying whatever $15 it is for to watch all 8 episodes of The Acolyte. So that is why I think that you will see maybe a bump in the 8th episode, the season finale. But I think you're going to continue seeing it go down and down every week because people are no longer tuning in to watch it when it airs on 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. But let me know what you guys make of what Leslye Headland had to say here. Clearly, she's coping. Clearly, she's trying to change the narrative. She's trying to shape the narrative here after admitting that she was really sad that her show was getting dismantled. And now she's like, oh, it's just review bombing. And she's trying to dismiss it. Sorry, Leslye, your words are already printed in the Hollywood Reporter, and your lies have now been exposed. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.